You've heard of oyster chowder. You've heard of clam chowder. Have you ever heard of salmon chowder?
Salmon chowder, I've heard of that, but have never tasted it. But for today, we're going to demonstrate how to prepare it and what it tastes like.
Hey guys, welcome back to At the Table. Sydney here, and I'm joined again by Mr. Michael Kato. And today we are going to make something really yummy, a little bit different, right? So what do we have today?
What we're going to do is we're going to do a chowder today. Since it's starting to get into the cooler weathers, we're going to do a very heartwarming, very savory dish, but we're going to use salmon. In this case here, it'll be similar to a clam chowder or an oyster chowder, but we're going to use salmon as our protein. But also we want to introduce coconut, because coconut and salmon are a great combination. Although it doesn't sound like a likely duel, from what I tasted and from what I heard, it's absolutely delicious. Yeah. So what we're going to start with today is that you can get salmon two ways. You can either get it fresh or frozen, and really it's very difficult to tell the difference between the two, but you can also get it either filleted, which is skinless, or you can get it with the skin on. Personally, I prefer it with the skin on. That way there, I can determine how much of the skin I want to leave on or off, and sometimes I like to leave the skin on. I think it's absolutely delicious. Some people don't like it, but it's certainly a personal preference. But in my case, I like to have the skin on. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to get Sydney. She is going to be our professional fishmonger. A fishmonger is the fish expert, okay, the one person behind the counter. And she's going to show us, along with myself, how to fillet a salmon, okay?
Okay.
So Sydney, man your station.
All right.
Okay. And typically, you know, we get a whole salmon to start with. Be careful with a girl with a knife can be a very dangerous thing. Okay, but then with the whole salmon, you get the shoulder portion and you get the tail portion. And Sydney's going to have the tail and I'm going to have the shoulder, okay? So what we first want to do is we want to sort of clean up the fish, okay? If you see the fish, you can see that there is a thin portion here, which is the bottom of the belly, and then the top portion, which is a thicker top of the flesh. All right, so we want to trim this thinner portion off, and really this makes the most delicious salmon skin once you crisp it up. I mean, it's just absolutely delicious. So what we want to do is we just want to take it and trim this off as you would typically do it. And when you buy it in the store, this is how it is typically, usually. It's been butchered by the monger to where it looks like this. Both sides are relatively equal, so they cook evenly, and this is the part that they don't discard it. It turns into a byproduct, either cat food or some other type of edible byproduct. Okay. So Sydney, what we're going to do is we're going to do the same for yours. Let's go ahead and trim off this portion right about here.
Okay.
Right along there. Okay.
Right here.
Yep. Perfect. Okay, and then what we want to do is you want to first, Sydney, start with the tail end, and go ahead and the easiest way to do it is you're going to lose a little bit of it like that, and then start with coming underneath it this way. Okay. And the object is that you want to fillet it and then leave some of the skin on. Okay. And then there's a couple ways you can either tear it this way, like this, which is a more rougher look. It's not a restaurant style cut. Or you can take it and then you can just run your knife blade along the edge and just take it like this. Okay, and you'll see that as you're removing it, it'll come off very cleanly. Okay. So let's see what Sydney does with this ingredient.
See if I can do it as pretty as Michael here. It's Not as hard.
That looks pretty good, Sydney.
I don't know. I think I might have messed up a little bit.
And even if you have a little bit of skin on there, don't worry about it. You know what?
Like that end right there.
Beautiful. Okay. Yeah, you can just trim that off.
There it goes.
Okay, let's go and show the audience what that looks like. Okay.
So here's our fillet.
That is a beautiful fillet piece that's worthy of seeing on the grocery store shelves. Okay, beautiful, Sydney. And then this, as we talked about, this is the skin. You can either discard it or you can either fry it up and it turns extremely crispy, almost into chips. Okay, you put a little salt on it, you can put soy sauce on there, and it really becomes a treat. For me, it's a treat. Yeah. Some people love it, some people don't care for it. It's a matter of preference, okay? So what we'll do is that we will go ahead and cut these into more manageable pieces, into bite-sized pieces. And then as we cut, we want to cut them into equally the size, so each piece cooks relatively the same, at the same pace. Okay, so when we come back, we will have our salmon cut, and then what we'll do is that we will start cutting up, chopping up, slicing, dicing our produce. We'll be back shortly.
I can't believe my friends didn't want to come over because they thought my house was haunted. Well, at least I got good Wi-Fi.
There's nothing scarier than a house with bad Wi-Fi.
I know, right? Don't let your home be too scary this Halloween season. Sign up for whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications.
Hey guys, Sydney and Jesse here from At the Table.
Are you enjoying the show? We want to hear from you.
We have a quick survey where you can tell us things you've learned, recipes you've tried, and how the show has impacted you. You'll be entered into a grand prize drawing. Check out our link or scan the QR code for more info.
Thank you for tuning in and cooking with us at the table.
Hi, welcome back everyone. Where we left off last time is that we had skinned the salmon, which Sydney did a beautiful job. And then now what I'm going to do is demonstrate that we're just going to dice it in just roughly cut pieces. And then we want the slices to be relatively the same size. And the reason for that is because we want it to cook consistently rather than having an inconsistent thickness or wellness as far as the flesh is concerned. So we can just roughly chop it since it is a chowder, like so. And even if we have a little bit of the skin on like this, we can just easily remove it. And again, for my purposes, I'm going to reuse this skin, either on another show or I'm going to have it tonight for dinner, okay? So while I'm doing this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Sydney help us with the produce portion of it, and she's going to prep the produce for the chowder. And typically chowders are one-pot dishes, okay? The only difference is that we're going to put the ingredients in at different times because they require different cooking times. You know, for example, a carrot will take a lot longer than to cook a piece of celery. It's just the way it is, they're denser. So we'll start with the carrots first, add in the celery, and then what we're gonna do is we're also gonna introduce to you one of my favorite buddies, okay? Sydney, do you wanna get that little hairy guy for us here?
Yes. Here's your hair.
Okay, here we go. This is not from the moon, okay? This is what they call fennel, okay? It's a very, very unusual vegetable. It is considered a root vegetable, but it grows on the surface. So from that, there is roots coming down, and you can see where they just chop it off like they would, a celery root or something like that. Okay, but from this, what you do is you get a beautiful sweet flavor. And also you get this aroma, this sort of licorice anise aroma. And for the people that don't like licorice, it's so subtle, you're gonna ask yourself, what is that flavor? Because it adds in a different level of dimension and depth to flavor that it really goes well with seafood. Things like paella, things like a bouillabaisse, all have this little guy in it. That's what separates a fish soup to a chowder. is this guy here. So let's get to know this guy, become real good friends with him. And you know what? I'm going to show you how to dispatch this and how to break it up, because what we want to do is there is a core inside of this to where we want to remove that core, and then we'll slice it up like we would an onion. And then what we'll do is we'll start by removing these, and then this is what it looks like. And then these fronds are completely edible. All right. You know, when you go to the herb section and you see dill, you see typically this right here, this piece here, which is the fronds. Okay, and you can eat this either raw or you can put it into soups. Really, you can use it as a garnish, something as simple as that. And then just cutting that piece off, I can smell the scent of licorice now. Okay, so it's really a beautiful herb that's underrated. You know, a lot of people don't use that because I don't think they know, you know, what the advantage to this herb is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the butt end off first. Okay, because that's sort of the butt, and it's I call it the stump. Okay, we want to cut the stump off, and this is what you're ending up with. And you can see that it's in rings. Okay, so what we'll do is we will divide this down the center like this, and again you can see that it's in rings again, just like an onion would be. But what it does is it has this core in it right here. It's sort of this teepee-shaped core. Can you see that? We want to cut that guy out, and then so because although you can make soup stock with it, you can also chop it up very finely, and some people can even make a slaw out of it, which is a delicious slaw that you can use just as core. But go ahead and cut it up. Or cut
now, does the core also have the licorice flavor as well?
It does. Okay, and then by removing that core, you end up with this. Okay, and so this is what we want to slice up, and we will slice it up just like we would an onion. All right, we would get it like this, and just make slices out of it. And they don't have to be exact. They can just be a rough cut. Okay, and then what you're left with is this beautiful, beautiful product here called, again, it's called fennel. And this is what it would be, all right? And then again, it's a substitute for onion if you want to introduce a different flavor profile other than what onion gives you, okay? Sydney is over there furiously fast working on our produce. So what we'll do is that we'll continue prepping our vegetables. Our fish is done. And in the next segment, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start putting it into our pot, but we'll put it into different stages. And also we'll talk a little bit about what salmon is and what it gives to us as an alternate protein and another fish source. So we'll be back shortly. We'll see you once we return. Thank you very much.
The average American household has 17 devices connected to the internet. With more and more devices able to get online, you may need to increase your internet speed. Call Star Communications today and let us help you select the package that's right for you.
Computer viruses, malware, and ransomware are out there. They're dangerous, and they can steal your identity and damage your equipment. Star Communications is now offering Protect IQ. The service adds an extra layer of protection to every device connected to your network, working quietly in the background. Star can help you protect yourself from the inside out with Protect IQ. Call Star today and take advantage of this free service when you sign up for whole home Wi-Fi with Star Communications.
Hi, welcome back. We've finished chopping up our salmon, and then Sydney's working on the vegetables. But before we get to Sydney, I want to talk very briefly about salmon and what that brings to us. The most common salmon is Atlantic salmon, and most people think it comes from the Atlantic Ocean, but really, by law, Atlantic salmon is all farm raised. You know, they prohibited it back in the 70s because it was overfished. Okay, so now when you see Atlantic salmon, it's all farm raised, which was really a good thing because now the consistency has become common, the size has become common, and really for the overall fish lover, it was a positive move. Okay, and also, it's not line caught or net caught. It's raised in a farm, just like trout would be. So Sydney is going to show us how to prep some vegetables, and she's working on that. And once we get all that done, we're going to put it into the pot at different stages, and our chowder will be pretty much done, with the exception of cooking. Sydney?
Yeah. So what we're doing right now is just getting the corn off of the cob here. And tip for you with this is to use a nice big bowl. That way it falls into. If you were to do this on your cutting board, you would have little pieces of corn flying everywhere, trying to escape from you. We've got about 2 cups of carrots and 2 cups of celery that we have here. And so it'll be corn, carrots, celery that we're going to be putting into our pot with our salmon. The other thing that I did want to mention is, yes, I'm using the same cutting board that I cut the salmon on. We are putting everything in together and cooking it all at the same time. So as far as food safety, we're not really concerned right now for cross-contamination because it's all going into the same pot. However, for our green onions that will be used as a garnish, I'm going to clean my knife. I'm going to get a new cutting board and use a separate cutting board for those because garnished items are not going into the pot and not going to be cooked. So they would be contaminated if we use the same.
That's really a good tip, Sydney, because this, especially during the warmer months, when things have a tendency to multiply, like bacteria, it can get to a level of unhealthiness very quickly.
Oh yeah.
So making sure that we're not cross-contaminating food items is that we want to work with different cutting boards and knives as well. Okay, Sydney,
Perfect.
you want to continue with what you're doing?
All right, so we have everything, I think, prepped, right? With the exception of our bacon. So we're going to throw all of this into our pot. Do we need to add some butter? Anything?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start with butter, and then as far as butter, there's 2 schools of thought on it. Butter adds the flavor, but we can also see butter burns very quickly.
Oh yeah.
I've
got it. I just turned it to low.
Okay.
I just turned it on, so.
But yes, we want to also add some olive oil, which olive oil adds another dimension of flavor, but for the most part, it's the butter. So Sydney's adding the carrots, the celery, and then what we'll do is we'll let that cook off for maybe about 10, 15 minutes. We don't want to overcook it because we want our vegetables, to still have a crunch to it, okay? And then also, we can't forget the star of the day. That is this, our little friend fennel, okay? So this is all going to go into the pot, just like that. And then as we include the ingredients, Sydney's going to start what we call a roux. Okay, it's a French term, and it's a thickening agent. We can use either cornstarch. Basically, what it is, it's 1 part fat to 2 parts oil. Okay, and the oil could be bacon fat. It can be any kind of fat. It could be lard, but in our case, we're going to be using butter, and we're going to be using flour, all-purpose flour, and that really becomes a thickening agent to what our chowder is going to be. So she'll start that shortly, and we'll show you how to do that and how to continue to whisk that. Also as a part of the roux, let me mention this because this is very important. Roux is a very, very heat-sensitive ingredient, so you want to never leave it. You want to attend it like your first child or your husband or wife. You just never want to leave it because what happens is that roux can burn very, very easily. And then there are different types of roux. It starts with a blonde roux, which has the most thickening agent, or thickening power, I should say, and it turns into a brown roux. If you're making gumbos and those kind of things, you want to go to a brown gumbo, and it almost looks like peanut butter when you're done. Okay, but that has the least amount of thickening power to it. So Sydney's working on that. She's also going to be cutting up some garnish, and there's some herbs that are going to be going into our stock pot. Sydney, do you want to hand me the time real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, do we know what this is? It's not lawn clippings, it's thyme. Okay, thyme has got a very lemony fragrance to it, and we're just going to get this and we're just going to throw it into the pot, just like that. The leaves will separate from the stems, and we can pull the stems out. Okay, so from that, we are pretty much done. What we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of liquid, and then we'll add the corn later, because the corn can really just be an additive to the end. And then we'll add a little bit of liquid, which is just water, and that will be the completion of our chowder mixture.
Perfect.
Okay.
Now, did we want to touch on the different cutting boards, types of cutting boards as well?
Yeah, you know, there are plastic cutting boards, and there are also wood cutting boards. You know, I use both. Of course, as Sydney mentioned, we want to use the poly boards for proteins, anything that's going to contaminate. But you know, the wood can also be used as well as that, as long as you designate a side for either proteins or produce. Okay, and the way you can do that is typically they have a burnt-in brand in a cutting board, and you can either mark it with an X or do something with it just to designate which is which. So, and then you don't, with a wood cutting board, you don't want to use soap. Okay, you want to use salt as your cleaning agent. So rub in salt in the cutting board, rinse it off with cold water, and then just towel dry it, and that would be the extent of what you do as far as cleaning. Okay, now we're going to be taking a short break. We'll be right back, and we'll show you the completion of our chowder dish.
Great communities attract talented people to live, work, and raise their families. We're committed to delivering future-proof broadband so our friends, families, and neighbors can live rich lives in smart rural communities across America. Your community is our community. We're your rural broadband partners. You do great things. We make great things possible.
When we're connected, American communities thrive. As the internet connects more Americans every year, access to robust and reliable broadband is more important than ever for rural communities. The Universal Service Fund enables affordable, high-quality broadband, improves healthcare outcomes with access to telehealth options, gives children the education for a bright future, and allows business growth and job creation. The Universal Service Fund is expanding and sustaining connectivity for all, because when we're connected, America thrives.
Hey guys, welcome back. So we have our chowder has been bubbling, getting really nice, and then our roux is actually all done. It's kind of browned a little bit. I did add all the flour in at once, just not thinking, and don't do that because you're supposed to slowly, gradually add in your flour. So butter will have to be melted down, and then you gradually add in your flour to make your roux. But your consistency should be about this, and have that nice kind of brown.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Look.
I think we're right there with it.
Yeah, looks great.
And then next, what we're going to do is we're going to start adding our produce in. And the order is that we're going to add things that are going to cook very, very quickly. So things like the corn. The corn you really can just add in as you like. This is probably more corn than what we'll need. And then we can go ahead and add our potatoes. And the potatoes, these are little new potatoes. They're little miniatures. And what they are is you can see how these can get real tiny. You can see how tiny these are here. And they're good because they're bite-sized. They cook very quickly. And they have a very, very buttery taste to them, almost like a Yukon Gold. And it's these are waxy potatoes. They're not starch potatoes. So you wouldn't make a mashed potatoes with this because it would become too lumpy. Okay.
Gotcha.
So we're going to go ahead and add these guys in. And this will determine the length of the cooking time left for the chowder, because everything, with the exception of the salmon, is already cooked. So what we'll do is that we'll go ahead and give this a quick stir. And what we're going to do is also these guys here. Okay, we all know what this is. These are corn cobs here. And what I did is we just got them, broke them apart. And what we're going to do is just add these to the chowder to give it the additional depth, the milk that will come out of it, and then we'll discard it towards the end. Okay, so we got 4 of which is 2 corn cobs. And we're also going to add this ingredient we discussed first, which is the coconut milk. Okay? And this is the part that a lot of people go, ooh, why are you doing that? But once you taste it, you're going to become a believer. Why salmon and coconut milk go together well.
Delicious.
Okay, so once we get this concoction here to a light simmer or boil, we're going to simmer it or cook it until the potatoes are just fork tender. All right. And then once the potatoes are fork tender, you know what? People say, oh, well, when are we going to add this? You know, this is something that has to cook. Well, with the heat alone, what we can do is we typically would add the salmon, shut the heat off, put the lid on it, and just let it finish off by itself. You know, you don't want to overcook salmon. Today's salmon, they recommend you can heat it to 140 degrees, which is about medium for a steak.
Yeah.
And then you can eat salmon medium. In fact, if you ordered at a restaurant, typically they would cook it to medium if you don't request it. Because beyond that, I mean, you can cook it further than that, but then what happens is you lose all of the work that the fishmonger has put into the salmon to make it that texture and that flavor profile. It's like overcooking a steak. You've lost all the work that the cattle rancher has put into that beef, yeah, to make it to where it's a delicious cut. So that's that. That's what's left. And finally, we want to, before we plate it, we want to recheck our seasoning.
So we have our corn, and we're going to go ahead and pull that out because our potatoes are fork tender. So we're pulling out the corn. We have bay leaves in there too that we're going to pull out, but we're not pulling those out until we're serving it, correct? And then we have thyme, the stems of our thyme. We can easily pull those out as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. On the thyme, what you can do is you'll see that you'll see a stem, and for the most part, all the leaves have dropped out of it here. You know, so as you see a stem, just pull it out. Or if you're even serving it, you could serve it with the stems in there, just letting your family or your guests know that you can remove the stem. And some people will even eat the stem, so it's not going to be anything harmful to you.
Okay.
And then, so what we'll do is next, we'll add the salmon. And again,
one more corn cob.
Oh. Okay. Oop. You okay?
Sorry. Yep.
Okay, so we're going to add the salmon here at the very end.
I did turn it to low. I don't know if you need me to turn it off yet.
Yeah, we can go ahead and let's go ahead and whisk in the roux.
Okay.
Okay, and then as we mentioned earlier, when Sydney whisks in the roux, she's going to do it in slow batches and whisk the chowder as she's doing that, because you'll see it thicken almost immediately once that reaction happens. So that's pretty good right there. Yeah.
So I haven't done all the roux. I've done about that much.
No, I think we're good there.
Just stop?
Yeah, it'll
Okay.
thicken up. And although we still have some of the roux left, and it looks a little watery, once the chowder sort of cools off, it'll get thicker as it gets cooler. So we want to make sure we're not over thickening it. We want to get it to a point where it's still a chowder, but it's not oatmeal. Okay?
Yeah,
I
it
think
looks
we're very
great.
good at it.
Awesome. It looks so good. So we have to let our salmon finish off. We did have green onions and some bacon as well that we're going to be topping off our dish with, and that'll help complete it. So I can't wait to try it because it smells delicious. But thank you so much for being on our show,
Thank you
Michael.
for having me.
I've enjoyed learning from you. He's a wealth of knowledge. So if you haven't taken one of his cooking workshops, please look into that, and we'll put all that information at the end as well. So we'll see you guys next time on At the Table.